Two stelliums in Aries, a Chiron conjunction, the final Venus-Uranus meetup in Taurus in our lifetime, and Uranus changing signs for the first time in 8 years, all happening in the same week. So this is no subtle new moon. This definitely is something to talk about. And if you've been feeling like something's trying to be born right now, that there's some kind of pressure building underneath everything, you are not imagining it. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time if you are new here. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez. I'm a clinically trained healer, an Akashic channel, and an astrology enthusiast. I am the host of the Feed Your Wild podcast, where we are approaching 1 million downloads across 75 countries. Honestly, blows my mind every time. We're coming up on an anniversary, so stay tuned for that episode. And if you're watching over here on YouTube, I'm so glad you are here on the Wildly Rooted Spirit channel. These are part of my Moon Musing series, every full and new moon, and we've done it since almost the very beginning of the podcast years ago. And in these Moon Musings, I go a little bit deeper than just a standard transit report. In terms of astrology, I weave in a traditional Hellenistic approach to astrology. I also talk about the Decans and mythology, but I also weave in some of the more modern elements and the planets. And my focus really is supporting the healers, supporting the mystics, supporting the light workers. So if you are in the healing arts, if you are deep in spiritual practice, if you feel called to bring forth something to be in service of the world and our collective healing, and this is absolutely for you. This Aries new moon has a lot of layers, and it's not your typical Aries moon. I want to go into why. So by the end of this episode, you're going to understand why this particular new moon is really a consequential one. It's one of the most significant initiations of 2026. April is a huge month, and not just astrologically, like collectively, but on a personal level. And why the pressure that you've been experiencing for quite some time now, why perhaps you've been feeling it as a problem, why it's not actually a problem, and why this Chiron conjunction at this lunation is really speaking directly to you, my healers, my guides, my practitioners and mystics, and why underneath this fire and this intensity that is happening, we have the Great Mother holding all of it. I'm also doing your Akashic oracle readings for each sign. So those are timestamped below if you just want to hop straight to those. Although I highly recommend you get some context first with this lunation and what's going on in the skies. And I'm very excited to dive in. So let's go ahead and do that. The Aries new moon is happening exact on April 17th at about 6:51 in the morning a.m. Central Time. And the degree point is 27 degrees, 28 minutes of Aries. So the degree matters here because this ain't early Aries energy. That very first decan and that the first degrees of Aries is that like impulsive, take action, shoot first, ask questions later kind of energy. And the third decan of Aries is a very different vibe. The third decan is where the story of Aries gets interesting because you've moved through almost all of Aries. And the third decan of Aries is ruled by our two benefics, Venus and Jupiter. And the tarot card of this particular decan is the Four of Wands. And if you know that card already, you already feel what I'm saying. It's two figures seen as two women holding nosegays, which are flowers, like small bouquets of flowers. And they're facing forward. And you see them, and there's a bridge over a moat in the background. And so this symbolism is specific. Once you have achieved physical well-being, you are ready to cross the bridge into spiritual well-being. That's part of the message here, is like physical. What is physical well-being? It's not just like physical health, but it's this world, the structure of the 3D material realm, getting your worldly, material, practical business in order so that you are divinely inspired, and your divinely inspired creative work can finally come through. And this is the Decan of the harvest after the hard work, the refuge, the prosperity. It's connected to Venus for sure, Venus being the planet of beauty and abundance and blessings and money and material realm, and Jupiter being the planet of faith and optimism and expansion. But here's what I love about this Decan as well. It still has Mars woven in through it. So it's still Aries energy. It's not exactly soft. It's the beauty that is forged through fire. Austin Coppock, the astrologer Austin Coppock, describes this particular Decan as the power of art to overcome hostility. So the artist or the performer who can really get the crowd going, to move the crowd, who writes songs about hard things and somehow creates connection through them. The one that can take what was painful, that wound, the hardship, the weapon even, and alchemize it into something really beautiful that cultivates connection. So it's that kiln, that fire in the kiln that makes the art, the pressure that makes the diamond, the grit in the oyster that makes that pearl. This is the signature that we're working with. And it sets everything up for what I want to say about Chiron. So let's get into this talk about Chiron. The new moon is conjunct. So every new moon is the moon and the sun together. Okay, so they are conjunct, and that's what a new moon is. They've kissed and have come together, and it happens every new moon. This is a time of planting new seeds. A new phase is beginning, and this new moon is conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, at 26 degrees of Aries. So that's less than 1 degree. You can't talk about this lunation without talking about Chiron. Now, Chiron is important for us healers. Chiron was abandoned by his own mother, rejected by the other centaurs. He was different. He was incredibly intelligent. He was a healer himself. He was wise. He didn't quite fit in, so he was kind of misfit in his own way. So he went off on his own path and he built something, his cave, his own apothecary. He became a medicine man, an alchemist, an herbalist, a healer that people couldn't find anywhere else. He was an astrologer. He knew the land that he walked upon, that he worked with, the plants, the medicine. And he took lessons from that land and the plants and offered them to others. He taught Achilles to fight. He was very multifaceted in a way that often gets reduced, I think, with Chiron. When we think about Chiron as just sort of this soul wound, and everybody's like, ugh, Chiron. And it's interesting because one of my teachers, Judith Hill, talks about Chiron through the lens of some research that was done that's related to marriage and relationships and how Chiron shows up there. So there's something very relational about Chiron. And I love that this is happening within this Decan that is ruled by Venus, co-ruled by Venus and Jupiter. There's something, again, to relationships within this theme and within this particular wound and this energy. So yes, Chiron carries some of these themes of trauma, rejection, abandonment, being outcast, of having to forge your own path because the mainstream or those that were like the place where you should have been doesn't really have a place for you, or you don't feel quite like you fit in. And so that is part of the story, but it's only a fraction, I feel, of this story. Because the other part of this story is that Chiron walked the path. Chiron had the medicine. Chiron was a healer And his wound, his own wounding and that forging and that pain was the source of his wisdom, was the source of his gifts. And people sought him out specifically for that, for what he could offer that couldn't be found anywhere else. And I think about this a lot in the context of healers, guides, and therapists, and all kinds of practitioners. In fact, the people who found their way to this work, it usually not a straight path, usually a very windy one, and usually one where there was some sort of wounding, whether it was your own and your own healing path and your own wounding, the wounded healer archetype, or of someone else's, and that you have witnessed, and also of those who had to leave something behind. So perhaps a different path that others wanted for you, or perhaps leaving behind a system, a set of beliefs, or a community, and most likely a version of yourself, in order to build and align with something that is truer, who are now sitting in their own version of Chiron's cave, offering your medicine. So I feel that's what this lunation is really activating. And Chiron has been moving through Aries for years, for quite some time. We're closing out this storyline as he moves toward the end of Aries. He's about to dip into Taurus in this year, 2026, and then go back and retrograde back. But eventually firmly move into Taurus next year. So I feel that this new moon is part of a greater story arc in connection with Chiron, and Chiron journeying through your chart and closing out that chapter. Now, it's not quite fully closed, but there's something that is being born through the ending of this chapter. And so the question that Chiron is sitting with right now is not where is the pain or where does it hurt? It's how have you healed? And how would your fully healed self move forward? Now, when I say heal, I don't mean all of your problems have disappeared or that you have cured whatever ailment, symptom, and pain or wound that you have been journeying with. What I mean by heal is to align with the truth of who you are. So this is about moving forward from a version of yourself that is not attached to the identity of that wounded healer, of the wound, but embracing the gifts of that and forging beauty through that, forging medicine from that. So it's not being looped back into an old pattern. It's moving forward from that integrated, embodied version of who you are, truly, at your core, at a soul level. And that knowing that you've actually already walked this path. And it's now time to step onto that timeline. And that you have something to gift the world because of it. I mentioned there are actually 2 stelliums happening in Aries right now, so I want to walk through those both very briefly. The first one is what we just talked about, the Sun, Moon, Chiron in those later degrees of Aries, and the healed self, like claiming what is next, that harvest, that 4 of Wands energy. The second is happening in the early degrees of Aries in that first decan, and this is where it gets intense. That Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Saturn all conjunct in the first decan. So it's pretty heavy there. Mars just entered his home sign. And the thing about Mars in Aries and the highest expression is that he's brave here. He's courageous. He's a freaking force and can be a force of good. Like that warrior that you want on your team, ready to lead and begin a new 2-year cycle. And he's currently sandwiched in between Neptune and Saturn, and that can feel limiting. That can feel limiting for him because on the one hand, Mars conjunct Neptune, that Neptune is a planet of illusion and delusion, right? Like things are not clear with Neptune, but it very much can be a spiritual connection and download, surrendering of the ego with that. And, a moment where you realize you cannot force this. And you're not supposed to force this. You're not supposed to effort and push and force. So these two energies together can feel at times on the physical level depleting. Like your normal energy levels may not be there. You might feel diluted, but that can actually be a good thing. Like there might be a bigger picture that is revealed in the slowing down, in the putting on a little bit of the brakes of, some of the obstacles that that they seem like obstacles that are being put in our way, but are they really obstacles, or are they signposts? Are they slowing us down and showing us something about how we are being and where we are going? And that masculine energy of Mars, that yang energy, really just wants to go, go, go. It's being asked to slow down and to witness and to connect and to receive something first. Mars conjunct Mercury is the mind moving faster than it should. So taking on too much, saying yes to things that are very exciting, and then suddenly feeling overwhelmed by like the volume that you've taken on. Hello, for those of you who have a Mars Mercury conjunction, I'm there right with you, and I feel it, that tendency to like do all the things. And sometimes you do have energy to hold a lot in your mental space, especially. But it doesn't mean that it's good for you necessarily. And there's kind of this feeling of like, there's a short deadline. There's a timeline. I have to make it by XYZ. Like things are arriving very quickly, and that you feel like you have to do something with it. You have to work with them right now. There's an urgency. So just pay attention to if that comes up and that is stoked, and really allowing yourself to be present, to slow down. Now, yes, of course, there are times when you can like really turn up the heat and get going, but it's not to your detriment. You have to make sure that you build in those breaks. Because even race cars have pit stops, right? Mars conjunct Saturn now is the reality check. What you say yes to, what you go for, also has consequences. Now, consequences doesn't mean that it's a bad or yes. It could be neutral, but this is the placement where it's like not everything that excites you has to be a yes. And there are seasons where we're like, I'm in my yes season, right? Like I'm saying yes to the things. Remember your capacity. Honor your body and your capacity. Does that thing have structure? Can you follow through with it? What does it actually cost you in time and energy and resources? Saturn in Aries is in fall here, meaning Mars is stronger of the two planets. Saturn does not do very well in Aries because Saturn doesn't like fast movement and impulsivity. And that means that, and doesn't like heat either. And so that means that the greater risk here is running past your limits, skipping the foundational steps, ignoring what your body is telling you in the name of getting shit done and in the name of speed. Now, we have to talk about April 20th with this lunation as well, because the pressure is building for this date. April 20th is the pressure point of the entire month. And that is the day that Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all go exact together. And this buildup it's baked into this new moon window. The exact conjunctions are the climax, and Neptune is still within a few degrees of that, which means that some of the conflict or the reactivity at this time, like, it's not even going to make sense. You're going to be like, what is this even about? Why do I feel this way? You won't really know why you're fighting or wanting to put up a fight. You won't be able to stop yourself from going after the thing. Of course you can, but it's going to be maybe perhaps a bit more challenging to slow down and to step on the brakes. Now, that foggy, compulsive quality is Neptune really threading through everything. So here are a few practical notes for this particular window coming up. Because I am a healer, clinically trained practitioner, talking to you not just as an astrologer, right? So I want to speak to the body. I want to speak to the practicality of things here. This is hot, dry, inflamed energy. So watch your hydration. Make sure you are hydrated. Make sure you are paying attention to your rest, to your body cues of nervous system overload and what that looks like for you. There's also the potential for more inflammation in the head. So headaches and migraines can be more likely with this Mercury-Mars concentration in Aries and with Saturn there. So slow down. Usually those who struggle with migraine or headaches, there's a window where you're feeling like, oh, okay, it could go down this road. Pause, slow down before you think you need to. And I highly also recommend that you avoid any unnecessary conflict or physically risky situations around the 20th specifically. So just don't do the thing until after, right? And don't take the bait of an argument or somebody provoking you. Just don't, drop it, leave it. It's not worth it. And listen to your body. Saturn conjunct Mars in the body can show up as messages about your vitality, about your own limits, and especially if you've been running on fumes. The good news is that after April 20th, Mercury and Mars start to separate from Saturn. So there is a sense of relief that enters the picture. It gets progressively better, thank goodness. From the 21st forward, you're going to get through it. One more note on this stellium. All planets are currently direct. So talk about go time energy. And Pluto is at 5 degrees of Aquarius, sextiling all 4 of these Aries planets in early Aries degrees. So it feels like there's a bit of support from the unseen. Like there's a deeper reasoning behind a lot of what you're experiencing. And you got soul level backing here. There's the energy of something bigger than you holding these new beginnings that you are initiating. And I really feel it as your connection to God's source creator through the collective. Like Aquarius is very much an Aquarian energy, is like for the collective. It's connected to the star card, that angel that has fallen from the stars and is that bridge between the divine and the material realms, the water bearer that is rehydrating and pouring that water back onto earth of the cosmic wisdom and the sacred medicine that is available to us through the waters of the subconscious, of the spiritual realm. All of that is available to us, but we have to receive it. We got to open up to receive. And that requires you to pause and allow for yourself to receive. So I feel that what you're moving forward is toward a path that is calling you, that there is nothing behind that, you need to regret. I know that can be hard to say for some of us who've had experiences where we're like, oh man, but I really do regret that. Can we look back through the vantage point of a higher consciousness, and that so much that has happened, and it doesn't mean that it was just or right or like good in any particular way, but to see it through the lens of the greater grand picture and where it has brought you today, who you are today. So honoring that piece and taking that with you as you move forward, and that you were literally born for this time. You are energetically coded for this moment. Now, amidst all of that fire, and it's in its shadow expression, it can be like urgency and conflict and war, overwhelm. There's something else happening in the background of this chart. There's Jupiter at 17 degrees of Cancer, and Jupiter is conjunct the asteroid Ops. Who's Ops? Ops is the wife of Saturn and the mother of Jupiter himself. She is the goddess of abundance. She is a symbol of hope and happy endings, especially after pain. There is a connection and deep love and reverence of Earth here and a respecting of her resources. It's Jupiter coming back into the arms of his own mother in the sign of the mother, Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. And so every new and full moon, we always pull in Leo and Cancer energy because they are ruled by these luminaries. I felt called to pull an oracle card for this lunation before I, tuned into the actual chart of this Aries new moon. And what I got was the Great Mother. The Great Mother. Right here. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the card, I surrender, I receive. And keynote words being nurturance, trust, receptivity, retreat, and birth. The message here I felt was so potent as related to that Jupiter placement with Ops. And the fact that this particular decan where this Aries new moon is happening is co-ruled by Jupiter and Venus, the divine feminine. Moon ruling Cancer and this lunation. Cancer, again, is always an important sign to look at for any new or full moon because it's always woven in and connected. We have Jupiter exalted in the sign of Cancer, being held by and embracing Ops, his mother, while Venus is also sitting in her own sign of Taurus, the Empress, in her own domain. Now, there's a wide sextile between them, Venus at 21 degrees of Taurus and Jupiter at 17 degrees of Cancer. But there's still that connection, that Venusian connection, because sextiles are the Venusian, Venus. They're the Venus connection here, geometrically. This is the Great Mother watching over the battlefield, what is happening. I feel this to be that divine feminine energy, not the kind of softness that, gets stamped out, but the creative alchemical intelligence that takes poison and makes medicine from it, like the peacock that alchemizes toxins into its beautiful, colorful feathers. And Mother Earth taking compost, creating compost that fertilizes and creates life. Homeopathic medicine and doses where the toxin becomes the cure. And this maps directly onto the Four of Wands and this Chiron conjunction. So look at what have you moved through in the harder chapters of your life. The first and the second decans of Aries, so to speak, that fire, what has been forged through that fire and is now ready to become beauty. The wound that is ready to become medicine and wisdom. And that hardship that is ready to become something that is a gift for you and the world. There is also asteroid Eros at 27 degrees of Cancer that is squaring this lunation. And Eros is the son of Venus and the god of erotic love, desire, passion, charm. So in Cancer, again, there's that connection with the moon. There's something here about pouring love into what you create. It's not a performative kind of love, and it's not weaponizing your charm, although that Decan can absolutely hold those realities and those shadows as well, and those expressions, but genuinely bringing goodness into the picture. Like that, again, that artist that can move the crowd, that has written songs about the hard things, and that weaves connection and love through that. The healer that creates that connection through their own story. On a practical side, I will say that Jupiter in Cancer is still, always, and still telling you, you have to take care of yourself, babe. Like, have you absorbed too much? You might need to wring out that sponge a bit. And so give yourself a day, an evening, freaking 15 minutes, if that's all you think you have. A morning that only belongs to you. Can you check in on how you're actually feeling underneath this really fiery energy, this urgency? I would say that it's not optional, and that this is about cultivating the energetic foundation that's required in order to create these new beginnings, to allow them to be possible in the highest way. What comes through this new moon and through this gate right after this new moon is really significant enough that I want to name it. I don't want to turn this into a full month of April forecast episode, but I feel that having the context of this greater story is really important for us to understand what we're being initiated into in waves, right? Because it's been like initiation in waves. April 19th, the sun then moves from Aries to Taurus, enters Taurus. And so that feels like, okay, there's a bit of slowness here now of this pace, of this energy. And Taurus can take the torch from Aries and then ask, what does it actually take to make this inspiration in this movement, like make it real, tangible, practical, slower, more embodied, more sensory? So this doesn't necessarily mean slow down all the way. It can for some, but it feels more like laying the groundwork and enjoying the journey along the way. Can you smell the freaking flowers? Can you take that walk and notice the sky and the trees? Take a moment. Enjoy the meal, the flavor explosion in your mouth in that singular moment. And let the creative energy that is running through us, let that land somewhere for you. April 24th, we have Venus conjoining Uranus in the last degree, anaretic degree, 29th degree of Taurus. And then Venus enters Gemini. So a Venus-Uranus conjunction is not, like, that's not something that's totally rare. But this is the last Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus in your lifetime. So that says something. It says something, and it speaks to your values, your creative life, what you want for your life, like breaking free of something. It could be something significant. It could be something like totally mundane and subtle, you know, like a shift in desire, a shift in like, what do I want to change my breakfast. You know, like maybe you always make the same thing and then you're like, let me change that up. And that small shift can create ripples. Believe me, I saw this all the time being a clinical nutritionist and an herbalist and working deeply with people on that. Like even something as simple as shifting from coffee to green tea or an herbal tea, and the drastic changes that can ensue. So do not belittle those seemingly minute shifts and changes because they can be significant. And this is also about creating a chapter, a new chapter from inspiration that moves you from pleasure, from a place of pleasure and beauty. And you can have this energy of like, you know what, I'm kind of done with that thing. Like I'm done carrying it, or I'm done feeling like I'm attached to it. All of a sudden, you're no longer attached to it. So you can take a look back at July 4th of 2025 for themes that are returning for completion, because there's a similar energy there. Now, as Venus moves into Gemini, Venus brings curiosity, conversation for sure, talky kind of Venus, connection, more social, more playful. There's creativity in the air, artistry, and the love. The love is in your conversations, in the questions you ask. Like you want to go deep and ask questions about others and to be asked yourself. And then April 25th, we have Uranus moving into Gemini. This is the big one, y'all. Uranus has been in Taurus for the past 8 years, and that's over. And now Uranus is going to move into Gemini for the next 8 years. And that really feels like innovation especially in communication and technology, and of course, AI. We also see transportation and travel, like innovation in that as well. On a personal level, this could feel like a rebrand. You know, I think like Madonna reinvention tour kind of vibe here in the Gemini area of your chart. So whatever Gemini rules in your chart, what house Gemini rules, you can expect some shifts and changes when Uranus moves into Gemini, especially in the beginning. And it could be like the feeling of this is, hey, you know what? It's not too late to start over. It doesn't matter what age, how long you've been doing something, like you feel this energy of support to make that shift. And change, to probably experience lots of change, change on steroids kind of energy with Uranus in Gemini. So if you have placements in the very beginning degrees of Gemini, like 0 to 7, or mutable signs, so Sagittarius, Virgo, or Pisces, you're really going to be feeling this. You're going to be feeling this. And I'm right there with you, y'all. So let's report back. Come back here and tell me. Or come join my community in Bloom, where we're always having conversations about the stars and lots of shifts and changes as healers. So come join us. The link is below if you want to hear more about that. And remember, watch July 3rd. So Mars conjunct Uranus in Gemini. That's the first major activation of that point in Gemini. So with that Uranus Gemini. So we'll see what happens there. But whatever needed to change for the greater good is happening. It's happening, baby. 2026 is taking off. This is, again, a consequential month. And this is a new moon point where that's this ignition point. I really feel that the Great Mother is not only standing on the sidelines of this moment, like holding the container and watching it, but she is in it. She is woven in every fabric of your being. The alchemist, the birther, the healer who turned the wound into medicine, the artist that makes beauty out of hardship, and that energy of showing up to do this work, even when it's hard, even when the fire is a lot, even when you're feeling overwhelmed and inflamed. I feel that the invitation of this Aries new moon is not to bypass that fire or even put it out, but is to use it in a way that is, dare I say, productive, and forging something that is real, that matters. So plant that seed and watch what has been growing and what will flourish. Hey, real quick before we continue, if this episode is resonating with you, I want to invite you into something special that I'm hosting on May 1st. It's a live deep dive into witch wound asteroid signatures, specific placements in your natal chart that reveal the flavor and nature of your persecution wound that you are carrying. So which asteroids you carry, what they mean, and how to read them in your own chart. And they will also reveal the gifts that are available to you through their transmutation. I'm going to be recording this, so you'll also get access to the replay. And here's how to get in. If you are already inside of my community called Bloom, our Sanctuary for Healers, or if you have my Cosmic Gifts Clarity Blueprint mini course, then you already are in. You'll receive an email and you could just show up. Bloom, for those of you who don't know, is a living practice sanctuary where I share my step-by-step methodology to help you trust your intuition like the inner oracle you already are. We are talking calibrating what is already inside you, your intuition, all by doing less, not more. Inside of Bloom, you're going to find the Intuitive Clarity Lab, subliminals, Akashic audios, healing exchanges, and a sisterhood of women healers from all over the world doing this work together. You can join us inside of Standard for just $11 a month and cancel anytime. Or you can upgrade to Premium and unlock over $1,500 in soul level healing courses, including the full Witch Wound Alchemy mini course and Healer Identity Upgrade, which is getting rave reviews, plus live Akashic Q&As with yours truly, me, and Oracle Practice Circles with me bi-weekly. So come on, join us. May 1st, Witch Wound Asteroids. The link is in the description to learn more, and I'd love to see you inside. Okay, so let's get back to our episode. Okay, so now let's move into the medical astrology part for just a moment. We have an Aries new moon. And so what is this? Aries is connected to the element of fire. Obviously here we've been talking so much about fire. And Aries is a cardinal sign. So that's an initiatory energy. And in terms of the body and the tissue state, so when I look at the connections of these signs and these planets and their influences, we look at the tissue states and how they impact the body. And so the tissue state, according to the energetic system of traditional Western herbalism, the tissue state connected with Aries is heat and excitation. So when the tissue is too hot or excitable. Now, the body systems in connection with Aries is the head, the face, especially the forehead. So that's why like the headaches and the migraine can come in. The nose and the mouth, the eyes, including the optic nerves, and the brain. So the blood vessels, the motors, the movement, and the cerebral spinal system and the muscular system. So when we see either an excess or a depletion, so an imbalance or a dis-ease in these areas, we might see fever, headaches, migraine, sore eyes, poor eyesight, inflammation in the eyes, inflammation in the head, swollen head, especially when excess energy is present. We might have muscle spasms throughout our body, but especially in the eyes and in the head. We can see dryness and extra heat because usually it's an excess when it has to do with Aries and the inflammation energy. We may have issues like brain fog, but that are stemming more from congestion in the brain or inflammation in the brain area. So we can also see emotionally manifested symptoms. Like rashes are very much connected with emotions. We see this like with babies really coming out. The anger, that like heat, anger energy coming out on the head and the face, the ears, acne, like really angry acne, inflamed acne or cystic acne. I remember I had that a lot. I had a lot of issues with my liver and with cystic acne, and I really had to take a look at how I was suppressing anger and my own fire, like that internal fire that wanted to move, but I wasn't allowing it to move. So anger, also potentially arrogance, righteousness. We see these eruptions and ruptures in the skin, measles, shingles, and other types of skin issues that seem to pop up and be like angry, inflamed, red, redness of the face, ticks, shaking, swelling. And so there's something here I really feel it's so important to first take a look at the emotional patterns and what are you unconsciously resisting. I mean, that is a key for so much. And that's the work we do inside of Bloom, by the way, is to really move through and shift and alchemize these blocks and the resistance so that you can experience a lot more freedom and shift into the identities that are true for you. What do we do on a body level, though? We want to bring in some cooling, some moistness as well. So cold, cooling herbs and foods, also practices like cold showers and baths. But in the form of teas and baths, we can absolutely bring in both that moisture, right? And like the cooling energy. The moistening herbs, so anything that's going to bring in more water, more, yes, water, but also the oils can be really helpful. And relaxing nervines, nervous system support, always, always, always. I also, we cannot, though, really move the needle unless we are working on our inner orientation, our emotional world, and the energetics, the energies that we are holding and that are moving inside of us. We have to work with those in addition to these physical allies and support, because then we're just paddling upstream. It's really difficult to feel like you're getting any traction from these things like that. I used to see that all the time. I would have a client and she'd be like, I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all the anti-inflammatories. I'm like, doing the cold showers. I'm doing this, blah, blah, and I can't get a hold. And I'm like, well, you're also telling me that you're having a fight with your husband every single day. So unless you are addressing the roots of these issues, then our physical allies and that medicine can only take us so far. So I feel that the gifts of this time and this Aries energy is really in the courage and the bravery to lean in and to no longer resist and to let go when you need to. So take a hold of that energy, like embody that, courageous spiritual warrior energy and apply it to your own life in the mundane, in the most mundane way, and watch just your life change from those moments and those micro decisions that you make every single day. In terms of herbs that are supportive for Aries, we have remedy herbs that are going to bring in that cooling and quench the heat and bring in some of that the moisture that's needed. So yarrow is a beautiful herb that is just like one of my absolute favorites. I'm getting even emotional because I had yarrow in our yard and all around us wild in Oregon that I would work with and commune with. And we do have yarrow in the front. As I look out the window, we have yarrow in our front yard today. But there is something to just walking down the road and connecting with yarrow like everywhere. Yarrow is one of the most beautiful remedies as it relates to blood and heat in the blood. It's the master of blood, as Matthew Wood would say. And so yarrow can absolutely come in. It's a wound healer as well. So beautiful ally as it relates to this particular Aries New Moon that's so connected to Chiron as well, and working with herbs in general. Like that's very Chironic. Also eucalyptus in terms of the smell and the cooling that can be brought forth through eucalyptus. Very Venusian, I feel, with like the smells and the aromatics of eucalyptus. Hawthorn, if for any heart heat energy issues. Hawthorn is such a beautiful ally that brings in a lot of cooling, but like healing support for the heart. So if there's a lot of heart-related energies, situations, pains, wounds, hurts, and inflammation, then hawthorn can be a beautiful ally. And if you want to bring in the heat or meet the heat with heat, then we got anything that is hot and spicy, ginger, any of your peppers, cayenne, as well as nettles is ruled by Mars. Vitex is a beautiful one in connection with the reproductive system for women. So those are the types when you're looking at herbs to work with, those that can really bring in, have like this beautiful intelligence around movement, moving things throughout the body, and heat. So when we take in medicine with something that is heating, like cayenne, like ginger, it can drive it. It's known as a driver, and it drives it deeper into the tissues, deeper into the body. So it could be very beneficial in that way if you want to work in combination, like herbs in combination. I also pulled from the Herbal Astrology Oracle deck by Adriana Ayala. So here's that. It's one of my favorite decks that I work with, especially with the lunations. And I wanted to see what herb would come through, because what I have found is we have the regulars that are connected with Aries and with Mars, but then every time I pull from this deck, it's like it's such a beautiful complementary ally that is presented that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of before. And what came through was exactly just that. We got milk thistle. So here is milk thistle. You could see that. Peaceful warrior. Peaceful warrior. What a beautiful image. If you're watching on YouTube, you could see that. Just gorgeous. So as you can see above here, we're presented with the moon and Mars. Milk thistle ruled by Mars and the moon. And hello, and those are the rulers of this lunation. And so we could see here that mother, again, the great mother that is pouring milk thistle from her breast, and this as a sign of the peaceful warrior. The words, the keywords and notes that Adriana has for milk thistle are sanctuary, shelter, justice, truth keeper. And so milk thistle has this beautiful ability to support the liver. The liver, by the way, is ruled by Jupiter. So there's Jupiter again playing a part here. But the liver can hold so much fire, so much anger in that kind of Martian energy, and can be plagued with inflammation, and that heat can move up, and that can cause a lot of inflammation in the head and headaches. In traditional Chinese medicine, there are instances where that's called liver fire rising. So especially if we don't allow it to flow properly, if we don't allow these emotions to move and for us to alchemize and work with them in the way that we're supposed to, they build up. They build up within. They create heat and inflammation, and then issues and build up in the liver. So milk thistle has this powerful ability to remedy that and to support the healing of the liver as a powerful anti-inflammatory for the liver and gallbladder as well. And it's one of the best herbs to work with if you do have liver issues, and if you're wanting to do a particular detox or support your natural detoxification system, milk thistle is really great. It would also fall under the moon's rulership as a galactagogue, because the milk thistle assists milk production in supporting mothers in feeding their children, nurturing their babies with milk, along with helping the rest of the gastrointestinal system. So it's considered a protective flower with the thistles, right, that can be prickly. And in ancient times was used to ward off parasitic energies and melancholy and negativity and hexes and curses and things like that. In Adriana's book, she mentions how milk thistle embodies the spirit of this fierce badger energy. So this aggressive healer, known to rid the body of disease and poison and toxic substance. And in many Native American traditions, associates badger medicine with really powerful medicine women. And that badgers are some of the great protectors of the earth and the earth's medicine. And badgers act quickly and efficiently and in crisis, and they do not panic. They're embodying this like primal warrior energy element of Mars. And I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, that's literally the embodiment of everything that we're describing with this lunation, right? So regardless, it's like the badger energy is wanting to protect regardless of the consequences. And so that's the vibe of this lunation. There's something here, like, maybe at first glance, we wouldn't have necessarily thought, oh, the Great Mother is present. That peaceful warrior energy. We may not have thought that with Aries New Moon. But here we are with the Great Mother coming in multiple times, showing up in multiple ways, and that Venusian Jupiterian energy as well. And I love this line that Adriana has. She says that badger and milk thistle shakes up systems that hinder innovation and halts patterns and behaviors that stunt growth, so that we are, again, with this like innovation, creative energy. And there's something about, again, the forging of beauty and birthing something that is beautiful amidst the fire, amidst the chaos, amidst war, unfortunately. And weaving that in so absolutely on a body, mind, spirit level, working with milk thistle, first within and then without. I invite you to do so. Connect with the spirit of milk thistle if that speaks to you. And maybe work with milk thistle on a physical level if, of course, like you have to tune into your body and work with your own practitioners and healers and like constitutionally. But milk thistle is such a beautiful ally for so many. And I feel absolutely for these times. Okay, so now let's get into your Akashic Oracle readings by sign. The timestamps are below. Now, here are just some, if you've never tuned into an Akashic Oracle reading with me before, what I do is I open up the Akashic records for the collective and I tune in for your sign. I highly recommend you tune into your rising sign, especially because your rising sign is the avatar that you are playing and living in this life that you have most likely chosen. And it's the role that you are playing on the stage of Earth. So it's how others see you. It's also connected with your body. And so because the wheel of the chart is based off of your ascendant, your rising, what I bring forth is going to most likely apply to your ascendant, your rising sign, and resonate most there. Now, having said that, you absolutely can also tune in with your sun sign, especially if you don't know your rising sign. Your sun sign is connected with your spiritual self, your soul self, like who your true essence that maybe not everybody else can see, but maybe your closest loved ones know. And it also can be related to your purpose here, and especially if what you do is connected with your purpose, it can be related to your career or your work and your legacy. And I have found that the older that you get, then the more the sun sign can also make a lot of sense. And if you have your lot of fortune in the same sign as your sun, and the same house as your sun, then you can use that as like a secondary first house. So it also works in that way too. If you don't know what I'm talking about with lot of fortune, don't worry about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and tune in for your sign. Today we are working with the Herbal Astrology Oracle deck that I mentioned because, hello, Chiron, herbs and astrology? Yes, please, and healing. So let's get into it. Aries, please tune into your rising and or sun sign. And let's see what we have for you. Mukuna, journey. And the ruler of this is Mercury and Uranus. All right, so we just talked a lot about Mercury and Uranus and all of that energy. Look at this beautiful card if you're watching over on YouTube, Wildly Rooted Spirit. Okay, so tuning in. Speaking of head and mind and brain and like thinking and Mercury coming together with Mars, the ruler of your sign, and then Uranus moving into Gemini very soon, I feel so much activation for you. Hello, in your head. There's something here in connection with, I'm getting like a lot of ahas for you. Like perhaps before you maybe had a lot of ideas, you had a lot of energy, but maybe they fizzled out or they didn't work out the way that you thought that they would. I still feel you just now kind of getting out of that. So it's not like all of a sudden all of the clarity is coming to you right now in this moment with this lunation. But what I do see is that the clouds are beginning to part a bit, but there's still some like thunder coming through, and that things are recalibrated. They're showing me the neuronal connections in your brain rewiring. So there's something really powerful to that, because that rewiring literally restructures your perception, your behavior, and your reality, your external reality. Because there's a rewiring of the mind on all levels, the way you think, the patterns. And this feels like a good thing. This feels like, okay, this is what I need to fully move full throttle on that thing that I know that I am here to do, or, to move forward in that path. I'm also feeling like, because there's a lot of activity here, there can be a bit of overwhelm with that. And I spoke to that earlier in the general Aries New Moon reading, and I feel obviously this makes sense for you as an Aries. So I feel bringing in something that can help to support clearing some of the clutter that can build up with so much energy and so much movement here in operation. It's almost like the way that they're showing it to me as all of these cars, like if you're looking from bird's eye view and you see all of these cars and they're going really fast, and you want to prevent crashes. You want to prevent traffic and where there's just full stop, like people really want to move, but they can't because there's so much happening. And so we want to create structure. We want to create, like light posts and signs and different pathways for this energy to move through. And I feel like, Mukuna itself can be absolutely supportive in doing that as an herb, as this being that can bring so much support for the neuronal connections of the physical brain and the nervous system, and to bring in more of a calm certainty and confidence. It's not that you lack certainty or confidence, but there's a calming version of that through Mukuna and the L-Dopa that is available through that. There's something here for you. So if you want to work with Mukuna, maybe perhaps, throwing it in some morning drinks, getting a powder. However, I feel even just connecting in with the spirit of Mukuna and that ability for you to to integrate that kind of medicine energetically yourself without necessarily having to work with a physical remedy. I think that's still also available to you. There is something here around like, there's something cooking. You got something cooking. And I want to know what it is because there's a lot of energy around it. And I feel a lot of excitability. Again, like those neurons firing, like excitatory neuron. Like I'm feeling that kind of energy for you. We just want to make sure that you're working with it in the highest way, that it's not like over excitatory in a way that then leads to burnout or leads to confusion or leading to like, you know, the Energizer bunny that just goes around and around in circles. Like we want to make sure we are providing pathways and structure. And also it's just like this, it reminds me of, you know, there's, I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm not a race car driver, but I just got this image of a race car driver that's like trying and very aggressive versus a race car driver that's like smooth and just like confident and like moving through and wins the race because they don't have this frenetic energy that is running them that can cause them to get into accidents and crashes or to see things that aren't necessarily there, if that makes sense. So it feels really good. It feels like it's part of a larger story for you and that just more and more opportunities are going to show up, but how can you work with them in the best way, right? And I feel like a lot of that self-care, and this also feels like discipline, like self-discipline, too, especially when Uranus gets into Gemini. There's something there and when we have like Mars meeting up with Uranus too, that is this card, right? And so I wonder how that's going to play out for you with Mars being the ruler of your chart. I would love to know. So let me know how this lands. And if you do end up working with Mikuna, I'd love to hear as well how Mikuna has supported you. Taurus, we are pulling for your rising and or sun sign. So here we go. Cacao, initiation. And we have Uranus once again. Uranus came up for Aries too. And obviously we talked a lot about Uranus in this video. And we have Venus. So Venus and Uranus. And both are in your sign and going to have that conjunction, that Venus-Uranus conjunction happening in Taurus, the last one. Ooh, that one feels especially potent for you. And clearly with this card coming through, Cacao, it's an initiation. Even though it's the last and final conjunction of those two, of your ruler and Uranus in your sign for your lifetime, it's initiating you into something. And what is that? What do we need to know about this? The first, so for many of you, I feel a deepening of love. And I asked around what? And first I got for the singletons, I got a deeper love coming through. A kind of love that maybe surprises you, shocks you even. And I'm getting for like, it can be romantic partnership, absolutely. But I also saw like pets, like a pet coming in, and you never knew that you can love an animal this much, kind of like soulmate level. Also, a love of a creative project, like something that you create, because I'm seeing hands in creating something. So coming into maybe a deeper love of a practice or an art that you already do, or maybe finding a new one that is different and interesting and new and takes you kind of like into a slightly different direction and of a creative pursuit. And then coming back to this deeper love, but like all of that is a reflection of this deeper love within yourself and rooted in your heart. It's like you found the love outside of yourself because you are connected to that same love within you, and this divine love that flows through you and through your hands. I keep seeing hands. And hands obviously also in connection with the heart and the heart chakra, but there is also something about creating and touch and sensuality and touching yourself and touching others and touching creations and creating from your hands. Like perhaps for some of you, it's also because I'm seeing a lot of energy in hands. So perhaps hands-on healing or healing with your hands. And I see you bringing that love and that healing to yourself first. Oh, and as it pours through you and fills you up, it comes out like through your pores. It pours through your pores, right? And you are magnetic. Like I'm getting giddy feeling and tapping into this for you. Like I can't stop smiling. So I feel it's very juicy, very good. Okay, so I also heard that letting go of attachment or expectation. So it's not necessarily like, oh, on the day of the Venus-Uranus conjunction, like that's going to happen to me. It actually feels more internal first than it does external. Like maybe some of you, bump into the love of your life or the pet of your life. But I feel like it's this like a shift that happens inside of you, that you awaken to this truth that you are the love that you've been looking for your entire life. It's already available to you right here. And I feel that so deeply for you. I'm also I just saw with the cacao and taking the cacao seed and how this sensual experience of that, of the softness and the juiciness, and then the crunch and the whole experience, this explosion of flavor, working with cacao medicine, obviously in connection, if that's something that speaks to you or calls to you, that'd be really beautiful as a ceremony for this final, last Venus-Uranus conjunction in your sign in your lifetime. It's worth having a cup of hot cacao over. So I hope that's supportive for you. Let me know. Please update me because that felt really yummy and juicy, and I want to know how that expresses in your life. So I hope that's supportive. Gemini, we are pulling for your rising and or sun, so tune in to those. And we have chamomile, inner peace, sun and moon. Chamomile, inner peace. Okay, so let me tune into that energy for you. There's something about the inner child that is coming through for you right now, as the teacher, as the wisdom keeper, as the medicine person, the inner child that has always held the answer. And I feel like you know that more than most signs. I would say Aries is probably the other, that is tapped into the inner child. And there's a playfulness, right? I feel all the Geminis in my life have this ability to play, to, F around and find out and to joke and to just mess with the messiness. It's okay to be in that play state. And one of the things that I'm getting that your inner child is bringing forth right now with this message is the power of your imagination. This feels like this new moon cycle. I mean, it's part of this greater initiatory cycle for so many of us. What I'm getting is that before Uranus moves into your sign, where then it's a whole shakeup and that reinvention tour, Madonna's reinvention tour, what I am getting is that it's like the calm. There's this calmness before a potential storm. And it doesn't mean like it's a bad storm, but there's something here where your inner child is coming forth and is saying, hey, there is a power, there is a force behind your imagination and your ability to use your mind. But in order to tap into it, there has to be peace, calm, nervous system regulation, and tuning in. I see how your inner child and imagination want to guide you. It's like they have the answer that you have been looking for. And so when you can create this space, I'm getting especially before bed, like if you could calm the mind before bed and say, okay, I'm here, I'm available, show me, I'd love to play. Allow that space for that inner child and that imagination to come through and to share the answers with you that you have been asking, these inquiries. But it's all coming from the place of peace. It's not coming from a place of attachment or like, I need to have that. It's coming from a place of, I'm willing to play. I'm here and I want to play. Let's go. Let's do this together. Let's dance. There's also like a something around like the gut brain connection that I'm getting to for you, but it's more of like that, again, that nervous system solar plexus energy that's like right here that can sometimes feel activated or overactivated, and then it's connected with the mind and then the mind going and then vice versa, right? So it's like bi-directional. And so what I'm getting is chamomile as an actual ally can be really supportive for you with that, because not only is chamomile connected with the inner child and a beautiful remedy for children as well, because it's so gentle and so effective, but for adults too. Like, and I'm hearing bringing in honey with that for you, like bringing in some honey. So if you are a Gemini who's been dealing with some gut issues or like nervous stomach or sour stomach or anything like that, and maybe there's a connection, mind-gut connection, then chamomile can also be really supportive for you too. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to hear what comes through your collaboration with your inner child and imagination. Cancer, we are doing your sign. Please tune into your rising and or sun. Woo! Okay, we got one that came through loud and clear, and we have mugwort, psychic healing. And the ruler of this card and mugwort is the moon and Neptune, both of which we've talked about. Obviously, this is a lunation, so the moon is always present here, and Neptune now being in Aries. Okay, so mugwort, psychic healing. You right now are in a time of psychically healing yourself. Now, you are a psychic healer, okay? So you absolutely can be that for others, but what I'm getting is that there is a deep, profound process of psychic healing that is happening within yourself, and you are your own healer. You know how to heal on many levels. It's important, though, that you engage with and you continue this process of this psychic healing right now. And so what is that? Psyche. Psyche is connected with your soul. This is soul level healing. And this is doing so in connection with the divine, with Source, God, Creator, with the divine powers that flow through you, those healing powers. This is the source of miracles. And so there's something here around the like embodying the psychic healer that you are for yourself first, because there's something to be said about the embodiment of that then you impart and you transmit to others, both as a healer and a teacher. And because healers are teachers, like nobody heals somebody else. They are activating the self-healing process within another being. Okay, and we're all connected in that way. And so what I'm getting is to pay attention right now to what is happening. I'm being the two areas that are being highlighted for me are right here in your ajna, and then also your heart and your higher heart, like these two areas. And then here, what about these? This is where you're going, especially in dream time. You are working with. So okay, the moon is the ruler of your sign. We know this. And mugwort is also a lunar medicine. And working in dream time, working with dreams, there is an invitation if you want to go deeper with this and the healing that is available to you in these centers. That working with mugwort, I'm getting as a flower essence is really beautiful, which is like, that's actually something that I've been wanting to do. That, has come into my consciousness. So like, that's an example where maybe you've already had some nudges. Maybe it might not be mugwort, but it's another Artemisia or, some sort of plant ally that has those lunar qualities that allows you to tap into the subconscious, tap into dream space. I'm getting that the beautiful work, soul level work and healing that you are already doing can only be enhanced by working with these plant allies and flower essences, because you're so sensitive, most of you, highly sensitive, that there's like working with mugwort in that way, at least in the beginning, can be really helpful to attune you to that frequency, because sometimes mugwort can be very strong, right? And can activate like lucid dreams, big dreams, sometimes can be a little too activating for my sensitives. So going deeper here and seeing the reflection, seeing how the nature of this reality through your psychic healing work, knowing the nature of this reality. Like it's one thing to try to rationalize and know with our logical mind, which is not actually possible. We can't do that with reality. But knowing on a heart, soul level who you are and the truths and the laws of this reality, to know those on a level where you don't need to explain with words, because what are even words? Like, words are so limiting. We do not need words to explain. I don't know why I'm getting a little feisty and activated here, but there's something here. It's like, because I'm just hearing some of you being like, oh, but like, I don't know. I can't like fully explain. Like I don't have the, and it's like, no, it's not up here, logical, rational, using words. We have entered the realm of symbols. The psychic realm is symbols. It's mystery. It's energy. It is not words. It is not logic. That is limiting. Someone needed to hear that. I don't know if that was you, but if it was or if it wasn't, I would love to hear how all of this is landing. And if you choose to work with mugwort, I'm going to go do so. I'll bring back some updates and let you know how it goes for me. Sending so much love to you. Let me know in the comments below. Leo, please tune in to your rising and or sun as we get your cards here. Okay, this one wants to go. Kava, community. And here, beautiful card if you're watching over on YouTube, a wildly rooted spirit. This card is ruled by the moon, which of course we have our lunation today, and Pluto. So this might weave in some of your Aquarian energy with this, with Pluto being in Aquarius right now. Leo. Okay, so tuning in. Leo, you are a natural crowd pleaser. Okay. You are the neighborhood mayor. That guy, that woman who they move through the neighborhood and people know them. Like they're talking, they're connecting. I'm feeling that kind of energy. I'm also feeling like a platform. I'm feeling social media, like you showing up in social media, in your community, in your small community, your large community, like it doesn't matter what size. There's something here about showing up. And if you feel like you don't have your community, this is you getting out there and creating it by just simply showing up in spaces, who you are. Like if it's physical, if it's going to a particular place that you've like been kind of wanting to go, maybe that, I don't know, like yoga studio or that cafe, or if it's, I'm also getting like an arts studio or collaborative for a lot of my creatives here. If it's online and just simply creating a presence online, whether it's social media on, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, like wherever you feel you just want to say something. It's about showing up. And it's not just for showing up for the sake of showing up, it's showing up so that community can find you. I feel like sometimes we orient ourselves as like, oh, I have to find community. I have to find my community. And especially for my Leos, it's like, you call it in, babe. Like you are magnetizing it. It may be created, but like you showing up brings it into your field and your reality and your awareness. And maybe like through connections. So say the thing, show the thing, show up. And I promise you, like, the gathering will happen, like the building of the community will happen. There's something there for you. And that's important because it's also like, I feel this deep cathartic healing in that for you. Part of it feels for some of you like there's something, a story around acceptance, self-acceptance, acceptance of others accepting you. Like there's a story there that wants to be worked with and perhaps healed. But there's another one where you have this natural leadership energy, this natural like creative cheerleading energy, because you, in your highest expression, you are uplifting others too. Like you have your light and you can show your light and say, you can do this too. Right? And so I feel like others see themselves in you, and that's where this community piece is coming through. It's like you can also be a mirror. I feel like that's why so many actors also have like Leonine energy. There's this Leo energy there because there's not just the creative and the like performance, but there's an artistry in like the mirroring of the human experience, of like saying the thing that wants to be said, displaying for others the aspirational reality or like the energy, the embodiment. So there's something about that with the reflection, the playing with the moon here with Kava Kava. Also, okay, the other piece here that I'm getting is, and this goes for, Aries, but also Leo, watch the fire, because the fire, you already tend to have, especially my Leo risings and Leo moons, you have a lot of fire running through you. Like, and so on a physical level, watch that. There's a lot of fire with a lot of this Aries energy, and that can impact you as well. So Kava Kava absolutely can bring in that like cooling, calming energy. It calms the muscles, it calms the mind, and it can bring things down in a good way. And like where it's just sort of this like feel good kind of way, relaxation kind of way. And I feel that for you as well. So don't get too worked up. And especially with like around the heart, we want to bring in some of these cooling remedies, some of these calming remedies and the nervings, and especially around the body. And Kava Kava as a physical herbal ally can absolutely bring that level of support too. So if you feel called to work with Kava Kava in that way. Okay, let me know how that lands. I'd love to hear in the comments below. Virgo, please tune in to your rising and or sun sign. Whoa. This mess I got with these cards. I don't think my Virgos would love this. Okay, here we go. Pau d'Arco. Pau d'Arco. So what's so interesting is we literally, the sign before you, which is Leo, we got Kava Kava, which is Pluto and the moon. And we now have Pau d'Arco, Pluto and the moon. Okay, so there's definitely some connection here. So Virgo, Pau d'Arco, Metamorphosis. Tune into this card here. Beautiful card if you're watching over on YouTube. Okay, so tuning in. Okay, I think I said this last time, like, you ladies have gone through so much. Now I'm speaking to my ladies. I know that some others are listening to me, but I'm speaking to my ladies because this card is speaking to you. You have been through it, okay? So I mentioned that last time. Here is the shadow piece that you are leaving behind. Here's the shell of what once was, okay? Do you see that? Here is the creative life force of your uterus, of your womb, whether you physically have it or not. Energetically, it is there, shedding and blessing that earth and that shell that you have left behind. And what is bringing forth through that release is this blooming luminosity. I feel like this image says everything that I need to say, but I'm going to tune more into the Akasha for you with this. It may feel as though for some of you, like you have put on a different mask, like you have put on something else, you're putting something on. And when you feel that way, I want you to tune in and ask yourself, is it something that I feel like I'm forcing or that I feel like I need to be? Or is this something that simply feels unfamiliar right now because I have been playing this other role for so long and I just need to get used to this more aligned expression of who I am? Metamorphosis is not a one and done process. It's not like, overnight, like here I am. It's a spiralic journey. And so what I'm getting is that there may be these moments where you're dipping back into a residue or memory of what once was, of like an old consciousness or identity or way of being. And it feels more distant. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is my experience and existence and who I am right now. It feels like, no, it's actually over here. I could still tune into it. I could still choose to operate from that, but I'm not going to, because you are leaving that behind. And it is there so that you can bear witness to the release. You can honor. It's part of this process of like this burial service almost of aspects of yourself. Maybe you might even want to bring in a ceremony to honor the parts of yourself that you've let go, to honor the things that you have let go. And in that way, to also allow for any of the last grievings that want to come through and the last vestiges of the aspects of those past things or, identities and consciousness to finally come up and out and also be released. We can have certain habitual patterns that are connected with different consciousnesses, but you're like, this is not me anymore. Why am I doing this? If you've had those moments, those are beautiful, pivotal moments that are invitations telling you, yeah, you're right. You're not this anymore. Do you see that? You see that difference and how it feels? So now you can operate and say no or say yes, right? Or you can just like not do the thing, not pay attention, and not fall back into that pattern and that same spinning roll. Because I feel it as like this spinning roll, like you step onto it and it's like, here I am again. I feel called to share a little bit about an experience I had. So inside of my community in Bloom, we've been doing some really deep identity shifting work. And so on the subconscious level, subconscious alchemy through specific mind shifting protocols. And one of I walked it through this course that I have called Healer Identity Upgrade. It's extremely powerful. One of my absolute favorite courses I ever created. I take myself through this also. So I use it. And I felt called to use it just the other week. And what came up was this identity that I named Loopy Lucy because she was stuck in a loop. And I really felt for her because there was so much attached and tied to her obligation and ancestral lineage, familial connection. There was grief, so much grief tied to her, but I allowed her to be released and to let go and to be dissolved. And then what came through that was liberated Lucy. And the feeling is so subtle. I mean, in the moment, I had my own cathartic release with that. You don't necessarily have that with every one of these. You don't need to. But for me, I had this sense of like, there's a deep grief in letting her go. And I had to honor that. I had to make space for that. I didn't even know that I needed that she was there. And so allowing yourself that space and that ceremony to be like, okay, what is here? What can I honor and thank and let go and grieve and then move on? And that's what I'm feeling for you. There's still something as part of this metamorphosis that you're in, that it's asking you for that to fertilize this blooming process that you are in. And in connection with Pluto, it can absolutely be cathartic. It could be extremely deep in the consciousness, especially in Aquarius. Like, it may be in the recesses and the dark closets of your subconscious that you weren't even aware of. And simply allowing for the space, and in this time with this lunation, I feel can open up that door to that closet so that you can finally say goodbye and bring peace. So I hope that's supportive for you. Let me know in the comments below. Also, just as a plant ally, Palo d'Arco, indigenously has been worked with as like a panacea. It's supportive as a blood tonic and for reproductive issues and gastrointestinal issues. Just a really beautiful, powerful healing ally if you want to connect with the spirit of Palo d'Arco and also with Palo d'Arco's medicine. So let me know how that goes in the comments below. I would love to hear. And if you want to do that deep identity work, come join us inside of Bloom. In the premium tier, we have some powerful courses that walk us through these exact protocols and rituals that I share and I do myself. So I would love to see you inside. Libra, please tune into your rising and or sun sign as we choose our card for you. And you got Arnica. And in this deck, it's card number 33, the Teacher. And the planetary ruler is Saturn. Saturn also being your exaltation lord. So there is Teacher Arnica. Okay, so let me tune into this here. Beautiful card. We got a wolf howling in the mountains. We have beautiful yellow arnica flowers, and then a medicine woman making her medicine right there. Okay. All right, so Libra, partly this feels like you are moving into a teacher era, and it doesn't necessarily mean moving into like you literally have to take up a teaching position or like getting on in front of a bunch of people and teach something. It feels more like teaching by living in accordance with the wisdom that you hold. So an embodied example of that wisdom and medicine that you hold. So that means living in accordance with that and honoring that within you. Saturn exalted in Libra is like it very much interested in the long game, very much interested in legacy and in integrity. And I feel that for you. I feel that sometimes you feel like because you're so integrous that you're going to be like, oh, but I don't know that I know enough to be a teacher, or I don't know if I'm ready enough yet. Like, I really want to be truthful and authentic, and like, I just feel like maybe I'm not ready because I want to honor my students if I'm going to have students and give them the best. And that is so honorable and beautiful of you. And sometimes that holds you back. Sometimes it's like, it's holding you back because it doesn't allow you to accept the aspects of the self that are ready and have something to teach, have something to share. And knowing that you only need to be a few steps ahead. You don't even need to call yourself a teacher, but can you allow yourself to step into the embodiment of knowing that you have something to share, that you have medicine, that you know things, and that other people would benefit by being in your orbit. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's being in your orbit. Maybe it's being in relationship, in a circle. It may not have to look like the standard orientation that we have around teacher-student dynamic. It can look different. And you can be a teacher to many by doing your art, by having conversations online, like by being witnessed. So it doesn't necessarily need to be in that kind of way. But there is something here around the healing power of your medicine. And it's time for you to accept that it has healing powers. Even if it doesn't necessarily look like your conventional healing, or like you may not identify fully as a healer. Oh, maybe that word even is like, I don't know, like I have the issues with that word. Believe me, I did for many years. And I can't even remember why, because I'm in totally different consciousness, because I know that I'm not healing anyone. I am my own healer. And through my own healing, I get to activate the self-healing process within others. And that's what I feel is you're being called to step into. And that's what a teacher is. But it's through embodiment. And then the healing power of that. I also feel one last thing here is in this process of connection, relationships is so important for you, right? Like, in Venus playing a big role in this lunation and the ruler of your sign, and this being such a relational Decan as well, I feel like there's something here in your relationships, in your conversations, that is healing for you and that is teaching you, and that you can then take in and embody and weave into your work and your medicine. So have the conversation, make the art, do the thing. And I would say allow yourself to also push the edges of your comfort zone. I mean, I feel like Saturn really does that too. Saturn can bring hardship, but in Libra and exalted, it's about like, ooh, that burn feels so good, right? Like, and it's productive and it's doing something. It's making me stronger and healthier. And that's what I'm getting for you as well. So, so much so much here, I feel, that is really internal and personal. You're going to have to tune in and let me know how this lands in the comments below. I would love to know. Scorpio, we are doing your sign. Please tune into your rising and or sun. Woo! And lavender flew out for you. Card number 20, lavender, the weaver, and in connection with Mercury. Okay, so let's tune in for your sign. There's something here that I feel, I see you weaving into the unconscious and subconscious field, like that web that we can't see, which is really the fabric of reality. This is how we create worlds. And I feel you tuning into it with your spidey senses that you have. That's the spidey senses that is tuning into the vibrations of that web. And there's a process that happens, and like in connection with your nervous system and those spidey senses, that feels like you're able to witness the story, perhaps your own story or the story of others, maybe the story of those that you are supporting if you are a practitioner or a healer. Also the story as a word weaver, because I feel for some of you like these like journalistic tendencies. So that can be as a therapist. It could also be as a writer and a journalist. And there's something here around, or even like those that you support or serve. So if you are in a position where you are helping others, you know, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a guide, a manager, a boss. There's something about like your ability to tune into the collective, whether it's that small collective or like the larger collective, and to feel the nuances and to bring in the level of support that is needed and being asked for without even necessarily like the people or the person asking for it explicitly. It's very subtle. This whole thing that I'm getting, it feels very subtle. In another reading for a different sign, like what came through was that words are not sufficient to explain these things, like for you when you're receiving things, because words are very limiting. And that's what I'm getting also, is this sense that it's not necessarily about making things make sense on a logical level, but rather tuning into the forces and the movement of what is happening that you are tuning into, and then meeting it, and it's even like holding space. For example, because I'm asking for examples of this so that it could be helpful and like applicable. I just received like you're leading a group dynamic, so maybe like in a therapeutic capacity or a women's circle, and then you're attuning to everybody's energy and the frequency and the web that is being woven in that particular dynamic, and that you know instinctually like what each person is holding or navigating. And so rather than you needing to say anything out loud or explicitly, it's almost like you simply witnessing it on that level. It's kind of like this quantum entanglement, you know, with like through your perception, you're able to shift or support someone simply by being the witness and bearing witness at that level and holding space. And I feel like that's one of your gifts, is the gift of perception, is the gift of like holding the field and the space and being able to interconnect and weave these things together in this way of the weaver of lavender. One thing that I will say is, if you feel, because Mars, the ruler of your sign, is going to be conjunct Mercury, and that for you can especially cause some uptick in the energy around your mental space and activity and even your nervous system. So simply pay attention in that at that time, lavender may be a beautiful plant ally for you because lavender works at that level, that subtle level, the nervous system level, and be able to bring that cooling and that calming and that kind of the settling of the phrase or the heat in the nervous system and those like excitatory nerves. Okay, and the last bit that I'll say is music is coming through. I'm hearing music that you love, music that is soothing, calming, that is just like deep, that's like communion with my soul and with source. So there's something around bringing in music as well. So I don't know if you yourself are a musician or it's just about like remember the power and medicine of music. Bring that into your experience too. Let me know how all of that lands. I would love to know in the comments below. Sagittarius, please, whoa, okay, this one's for you. Please tune into your rising and or sun. And we have Sage. Sage, card number 6, blessing, ruled by the moon and none other than Jupiter, the ruler of your sign. No wonder this one came flying out, babe. Just for you. Okay, so let's tune in, shall we? As I mentioned, the ruler of your sign is currently exalted in Cancer. Please tune, if you didn't listen, if you skipped over the whole overview of this lunation, please go back and listen because I talk about the importance of Jupiter in Cancer and that great nurturing, great mother energy that is blessing this lunation, as well as Jupiter being a co-ruler of the Decan, of the third Decan of Aries, where this Aries New Moon is happening. So Jupiter is here as the ruler of your sign of reminding you of the wisdom within, but also that there are some blessings that are coming your way. And this, I feel like this came through in the last lunation as well, like something beautiful is coming your way. And I don't feel it being like landing fully in a material sense or reality experience sense just yet, but it's the faith that is required for it to come through. It's almost like, when you walk into a room and you smell the apple pie baking, but you don't see it yet, but you know it's there because there is a clue, there's a signal, like your senses are attuning to it. Well, you have higher faculty senses and you are attuning to the smell, the scent, the essence of those blessings that are coming through. But they are directly linked and connected with the blessings that you provide for others. And you as a teacher, a wisdom keeper, a guide, a sage in your own right, but it's not just you, it's the fact that you know that you are being carried forth, that you are a messenger, that you are attuned to and connected to God's source creator, and that those blessings are coming through you as a channel. And the more that you can remember that in each moment of each day and bring the gratitude and the appreciation for simply that, for simply existing, it's like it amplifies the energy of those blessings. It amplifies your ability to embody that and to open up the blessings for others to receive as well. There's also an expansion process here with this. And so this being an Aries new moon, take a look at the Aries area of your chart and what house it rules, what area of your life it is ruling. For Sagittarius, that's going to be the 5th house. So this is the 5th house of children, of creation, creative life force energy, of creative pursuits, of good fortune, of romance, the eros. So there can be romantic blessings, there could be blessings with children, there can be blessings with your creative work. This is also a house that encapsulates entrepreneurialism as well. So if you have entrepreneurial pursuits, creative life force energy, where are you placing that? There is a support and blessings with that, but it doesn't feel like it's just siloed and for the sake of its own essence and being, but it feels like it's tethered to your connection with the greater collective and you as someone who is bring forth blessings to bloom within others and for others. And also there is a remembering the power of clearing, like sage being such a beautiful force and protector. There's also something here that feels very protective in nature, and that's Jupiter in Cancer, absolutely. There is something here around protecting what is holy, protecting what is sacred. And when I connected with the energy of this new moon, and we had Milk Thistle, the peaceful warrior, and this Badger energy of protection with Mars and the moon, this feels similar in nature, but more as like this benevolent, protective, spiritual energy, and this divine protection that is also here that we can call in as well for yourself and for others, the greater collective. Really beautiful, potent. I feel like there's also a lot of nuances for each of you, like on an individual level. So tune in for what does this mean for you? You know, like what are the blessings? What does the protection look like? And it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to protect myself. Like I need to bring in protective energy. No, it's just like a reminder that sage is inherently protective because of its power. So when you can embody the fullness and conviction, like stand tall in your own power, your field becomes powerful and a natural body of protection. It's like spiritual immune system. You know, you build a healthy immune system through that. So let me know how that lands for you. I would love to know what comes through, and please let me know in the comments below. Capricorn, you are next. Please tune into your rising and or sun sign. Okay, Cap, we have tobacco, card number 24, offering. And this card is ruled by Mars and Pluto. Whew. Powerhouses. Okay, so tuning in for you. Okay, I'm gonna say it. This is like big daddy energy. Okay, so like this is embodying big daddy energy. And what does that mean? It's like I don't mean it in a derogatory sense. I mean it in like this unfuckwithable, standing tall, knowing who you are, your worth, your medicine, unapologetic, and standing for the people, standing for the children, standing for protection, standing for your values, raising your freaking standards, big daddy energy. Now, there's also great mother energy coming in with this lunation, right? Of course, like we can have big daddy energy in great mother energy, okay? So that's what I'm getting is like this beautiful combination and you standing in that, like unapologetically, claiming it. Babe, you know that you are incredible, that you make shit happen, that you are a born leader in the sense that it's not like you have to be on stage, right? Like you have to be that like sort of performance face everywhere, but you are the kind of leader where you are like so embodied in your knowing and who you are that people are like, who is she? Right? That's what I'm getting for you. And then it's not only like, who is she? It's like, she is a force. She's a force. Especially as this divine, great mother, feminine energy in combination with us, it's like, this is not just about me, here I am. This is like, here I am, and I am here for you. I am here for all of us. We got this. We are holding this down together. I feel that this energy is also, this is calling forth that aspect of yourself in this time right now. So we're going to have seasons, right? Like you're going to have seasons. Maybe some of you are listening to this and be like, Big Daddy energy, that ain't me. Like, that's not me. I want you to listen to that and ask, where is that voice coming from? Where is that belief coming from? What identity is that attached to? Like really pause this video and ask yourself that question. Maybe have a little journaling session. Because I want to know where that came from. What is keeping it playing as a record in your being? And how is it holding you back? How is it holding you back? When you know, like my Capricorns, you were grown the day that you were born. Like you're that little kid that is the mommy, daddy on the playground. And so it's not, again, that you have to parent everybody, parentify yourself. And a lot of you have been parentified early on in your life because maybe there was some sort of soul contract there. Like, I don't know the story behind that, or because others saw the capacity in you, even if it was inappropriate for you to have to take on so much responsibility at an early age. Many of you did because you had to, because you didn't have a choice. But now as adults, I'm feeling like you have agency, you have choice over how you show up, what responsibility you do take, and what you are letting go of. Because that's part of Big Daddy energy too, is take that off my plate. That's not mine. That's not for me. Unapologetic, I know with every ounce of my being, and out. Okay, so it's also discernment, because you have this clarity and conviction and confidence with that clarity. Now, if you're saying, Vanessa, but I don't have clarity, what I will say is that sometimes that conviction and that willingness to look at and say yes to these aspects of the self and to hold that level of, yes, responsibility will bring the clarity, not the other way around. Now, if you are struggling with clarity, I highly recommend you join us inside of my community Bloom, where I have the Intuitive Clarity Lab. That'll fix it right up for you. Not that anything needs to be fixed, but you will see how clarity comes in when you make certain calibration tweaks. So if you want to check that out, the link is below. Now, back to tobacco. Tobacco is also a sacred medicine. A sacred medicine and an offering. So how does this relate to you, Capricorn? And what I'm getting is that the offering is in yourself. Now, it's not yourself on a silver platter to whoever shows up. It's the offerings that you have from overflow. It's the offerings that you have of your creations, your words, your wisdom, your medicine that is effortless for you. But for others, it's a lifeline. Tap into that. Tap into that, because that is the overflow that you could provide that is so nurturing for others. And honoring of that. Also, if you don't already have a relationship with tobacco and would like to build a relationship, not necessarily like with smoking tobacco, although if you do, like no judgment, but there is something here around simply the spirit of tobacco and in offering tobacco to the realms of the divine, of the spirit realm, of working and remembering in like that you live in a reality that is not just this material realm. You know this. And so how can you work with and in communion with the spiritual world? And that exchange and reciprocity is law. It's so important. And that is part of the reason why tobacco, sacred tobacco, has been worked with as an offering in many traditions. And you can also engage with it in that way too. So that's what's coming through for you. I hope that this is supportive. And there's also something with that Pluto and Aquarius. It's like it's shaking things up in a way. It's really bringing out like for the collective. So a lot of what I'm saying, it feels like geared for you, but it really does feel like part of this offering is for the greater collective. Like we need you to step up in yourself and as the leader that you are in whatever shape or form that may take. Okay, so let me know in the comments below how that lands. I'd love to know. Aquarius, please tune into your rising and or sun. We are tuning in to my Aquarian folk. You're the only one I had a little jingle for today. No? Okay, we have Poppy. Poppy, Dream. Card number 41. Here's the image for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Neptune and Saturn. Okay, so tuning in for you. Pluto is in your sign right now. And Pluto is making a sextile, a harmonious aspect in the vibe of Venus to Saturn and Neptune and Mars in the sign of Aries. So there's something here that is being dug up in a way that is fruitful, in a way that is to cultivate harmony, but I feel like it's being dug up in the subconscious, in the dream realm here, where Poppy can absolutely support us. Also in the nervous system. I'm feeling this in the nervous system. So this energy of Saturn and Neptune in Aries can bring forth, it can feel hard, right? Like, because we have this energy, I cover in the early, if you skipped over when I shared about this lunation and the conjunctions and how the different conjunctions can feel, like in Aries, there is something about how it can feel a bit challenging to move forward because we're being slowed down. There might be some roadblocks in the way, a la Saturn. But then also there's this nebulousness or potential like illusionary quality. Things are not super clear with Neptune. And yet there's so much energy with Aries. But what I'm getting is that Pluto in Aquarius in your sign that's sextiling that is bridging. It's like allowing that space and time, the goodness that is available to us with the slowdown, with the nebulousness or lack of clarity, or like with that pause moment to do the excavation work within the subconscious, within the nervous system and the body and somatically for greater healing. And that is available to you on a body level, on a visceral level. But also, it's like you get to dream a new reality. But this is a window of time where not only with this new moon energy of like planting new seeds and initiation, but also with this sextile that I just described. It's like this opportunity for you to work with that fire energy of like getting in there, and also that plutonic excavation of pulling out the roots of what's been seeded so long ago, many lifetimes ago, that is no longer aligned with who you are or where you are going and who you are becoming on a body, mind, spirit level. So work with the dreams, work with any kind of subconscious practice. There's so many out there. If you want to be guided in that, we have lots of subconscious reprogramming protocols and courses, support, and soul level healing inside of my community Bloom that you can join, especially the premium tier, and really phenomenal protocols that you can move through in this time that would be highly supportive. So all links are in the show notes. But really anything that you find or that you work with, maybe you already work with hypnosis or like past life regression or dream work or shamanic work, would be really beautiful here for you as well. And again, whatever you feel called to, what feels aligned for you right now. I also am feeling a deeper connection with God, source, creator, the divine consciousness. There's something here about allowing yourself to be guided by that you are not alone, that you are not doing this work alone, and to allow the support in for this deep, deep work that you are doing. So let me know how that goes. Please leave comments below if you feel called. I'd love to hear how this lands. Pisces, here we go. Please tune into your rising and or sun sign. And you got Hergon Sacha. Hergon Sacha, card number 22, Transfiguration. And there is Mars and Pluto. Very Martian and Plutonic, this image. If you're watching over on YouTube, fire, serpentine, tower, all the things. Okay, so part of what I'm getting here for you, Pisces, is that you have already, I've mentioned this in the last one, I believe, or the past two, is that you have gone through so much in your sign. You and Virgo, I feel, the two of you, I mean, all of us really have gone through the ringer in the past several years. However, with Pisces, you've gone through this very deep spiritual journey and emerging from that. And so part of the Hergon Sacha signature with this transfiguration is the ability, what I talked about earlier in this, the description of this lunation, is the ability to take poison and make medicine out of it. Because Hergon Sacha is an anti-venom. So look at this signature. According to the doctrine of signatures, which basically part of that is looking at what the plant looks like, right? The signatures of the plant. It's serpentine. It looks like a snake. And the indigenous use this as an anti-venom against snake bites, spider bites, other poisons. So it's transmuting and transfiguring that poison and rendering it, either neutralizing it or rendering it as medicine and turning it into medicine. That's that transfiguration process. So there's something here about your ability to do that, to continue to do that in your own process in life, but also to take a look at what are the poisons that are the perceived poisons that maybe are still in your field or your experience, or maybe you've been moving through some icky, mucky stuff. How can you bring in your gifts of transfiguration and transmutation and that sort of peacock quality of eating the poisons and turning it into this beautiful plumage? There is also, this is a protective ally in medicine. So working with protection allies like Hergon Sacha. And, you know, the Martian and Plutonian energies, like, those don't play nice. You know, like, those go there. Those sting. This is stingers, venom, right? Like bites. And this is the remedy to that. Hergon Sacha is a remedy to those. So what are the lingering bites and stings that you're harboring, that you're holding, those wounds, those chironic wounds? And what are the ones that maybe like you're potentially facing right now? And your ability to help assist others in shifting those, in alchemizing those as well. Working with this plant ally as a remedy, as a healing spirit and protective spirit in this time feels really good for you. So connecting with the spirit of Hergon Sacha. And also like noticing, there was a conversation thread inside of my community in Bloom where what was brought forth was this idea of softness and how, you know, healers so often can seem soft and that can be perceived as weak, or that we give people the benefit of the doubt, or we see the light in others, so then we want to uphold that and we work with them, or we're with them in relationship, and then we may get burned because those individuals did not fully step up to the potential that we saw. And so, of course, there can be some shadow sides to that, absolutely. And there are things, invitations for us in those experiences to witness the parts of ourselves that we abandon in that process, right? And so to build discernment and to build our muscle around discernment of that. And you know, is that a story or a pattern that we want to continue to play out? Probably not. Even as much as we may feel deeply, you know, and empathize with someone and want to support them, want to heal them. We don't want to dip into codependency. We don't want to dip into this, you know, victim savior complex. And so noticing that and moving beyond those stories and patterns and archetypes. But part of this is also speaking to the fact that our ability to stay soft amidst that is not a weakness, and that we can also have our own sting, right? Like there can be, especially that Piscean nature, I feel like is very much about, you know, oneness and love and connection and like the vantage point of the soul. And so in communion, like Venus is exalted in Pisces, right? Like that love and connection. So yes, you could tap into those higher levels of consciousness and those vantage points. However, we also live in a material realm where there are some experiences that are very difficult and challenging and hard and very Martian and Plutonic in quality in the lower shadow expression of it. War, violence, terror, the whole bit. And so how do we show up? How do we show up in those spaces, in that context? Still maintaining our ability to hold and to witness and to love, but also bringing in this element of this like Martian and Plutonic quality of, you know, this sting that is medicine as well. So there's something about that in your life. You know, maybe it's through communication words, because I just saw it with the tongue. It's something that you might say that may feel like, oh, I was being a hard ass, or, you know, like it may feel like, okay, this lands as sting, like a sting for others. but it was needed. Maybe that was part of the medicine, and not to get down on yourself about that. And also showing up in spaces that feel, it's not always about avoidance. There's sometimes unconsciously even where we can get into avoidant patterns. And so like part of this can be bypassing, spiritual bypassing. This is asking us to go in, to get into that, like if you get into the wound, it's like ugly and it smells. And it's like, like the healing process is not cute necessarily. And so it's not pleasant, but it's needed. Like we need to bring the medicine and go there. And that's what I'm getting is like sometimes those people or those places where we maybe typically want to avoid or stay away from, like, oh, I don't want that energy. I don't want that vibe. I'm not saying, okay, go head on, but have your tools and be aware and don't be afraid. Like, do not fear it, but also you don't have to be passive in that situation either. So that's what I'm getting for you, Pisces. I don't know how that really plays out in your unique and individual life, but I would love to hear how this lands and this medicine really of protection and transfiguration, transmutation of poisons. I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. And that completes our Akashic Oracle readings for each sign. Once again, I'm just so excited to hear how all of this lands for you. Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to keep this conversation going and join us, then please come inside Bloom, our community and sanctuary for intuitive healers. You can learn more clicking the link below. Until our next episode and podcast, so much love to you. Be well and happy new moon.